Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day, and we'll do the same without wasting a single second of your time. Bada bing, bada boom, we go into the charts. Today with Bitcoin, sideways Sunday and Saturday and Friday, you see these spinning tops going nowhere just at this second point of control region on this fixed range volume profile from the 2 clicks of this range here. If you're using just a regular visible range volume profile, you're doing yourself a disservice. You should use this tool down here, down at your volume based ones, and asterisk this up, fixed range volume profile, because you can be more precise with which point of controls you're looking at and where you want to see them hold or drop beneath for potential shorts and longs on certain ranges. You don't need to include all of this, although this might be helpful to just swing it back here and see where a point of control is within that. But it doesn't draw a line for the other points and controls within that range. So either way, we have it from here to here, this sideways range that we've been in since basically 37 days since our drop down to 25k. So interesting to note that this pitch fan that we've had price in since January has been respecting these levels, notably most recently the 382 and the 236 here. As we oscillate between them, do we go back down to the 236 or are we going to pump back up to the 382? That's for us to find out as we go into high block capital. What is high block? Well, people lock their liquidity into the charts to get burnt to a crisp by the market maker for not using a stop loss, and we get to see where those stop loss characters lie in wait and or got burnt to a crisp. So over the last 2 days, there hasn't been much pinged in as per usual for the weekend slow talk. We're getting a few 11 million characters, some long opened up there into this resistance. Not smart for them, then they caused them to pull back a little bit. But as of our analysis the last day or two, we were talking about coming up to the 100xers at 26,775. We marked off that pool for you, and also the 50x partner in crime up here at the 27,053 region could be the on the chopping block as we go into the weekly candle close, as we are short imbalance to the tune of 4.66 billion in short liquidity on the 7 days of 1 minute information we have here. But those other times we get lost to father time, so we have to expand our vision to the higher time frame. So let's do that now. We have to switch the liquidity to max liquidity here, so that's what we're going to do. And then we can see that there is a band at 26,150 of about 5 billion down just from where we are. Hop, skip, and a jump away. Up above, you'd have to come all the way up to the 27.6 region to start grabbing some juiciness up there. So if we do come up to that 26.7-ish region to take out the 50x and the 100x, do we fatigue off that and then start to eat into the liquidity below? That could be on the possibility of false move Monday as we try to finish the week out strong and then potentially fade into the upcoming week. Up above on the monthly time frame, you do have an imbalance to the upside here of the tune of double digits at 28.3 for $15 billion up there. Another double digits at 28.2 and double digits at 28.1, all together accumulating over 35 billion in liquidity up there. And so if we were going to make a bullish narrative, that would be where the target would be, just above these highs. Overall, as you start to expand your vision to the 3-month and the 6-month, you notice the clear interest of imbalance down below of the $50-60 billion pools down in that sub 24k region. So do we make our way into this 168 billion down at 24.3 and below 100 of over 500 billion down in that region, as opposed to having to come all the way up to 32.1 to get some of the similar interest. So they don't have to go as far to grab this stack down below, so it makes more sense to continue that idea. And they did the same thing very much over here back in October of last year. They started to generate some interest to the upside. You did have some nice pools up here at 23.2, and then there was just overall more interest down below, so they just gobbled it up. Then when they had nothing else to gobble, they still had this band of protected positions, most likely exchanges positions, and then they just took it back higher into those pools above. There's a large amount of pools down here for them to grab, 253 billion at 23.6. So coming to that region before going into the chopping block of the 32k region would make more sense to me. I don't see why they would leave that 253 billion unscathed, but I know nothing. Who am I to say? That could be the Binance exchange's position they're trying to protect, and it could be something they never go back to. So daily time frame, we are above some daily ranges here, some wicks on May 16th, May 22nd, and March 28th. These are the levels we're at, again revisiting this point of control here. So where do we go? Do we start to reclaim and go higher? Let's go into the Binance chart and take a look at our Fibonacci as we shift our attention away from the liquidity and into the math, the 3 pillars of trading: liquidity, math, and momentum. As I have discovered, patterns are tertiary to that. And so if you respect the math and the liquidity and the momentum, you'll see that a head and shoulders could turn into an inverted head and shoulders very quickly. It all has to do with the imbalance and them heading in that direction. So not getting locked into a certain pattern of thought, pardon the pun, is better than everything else. Go with the flow of the momentum. And so here we're beneath the 236 at 27.84. We talked about that. If you cannot maintain this 27K region, then you're doomed for downside, and that is where we've been heading over the last few days. So you could almost put a limit order there beneath that and just like let it do its thing. These 236s are quite nice to behold, so this is why we had this idea of coming down to potentially the 618 and watching for a reaction at 25.889, although there's not much liquidity to suggest that. There is a pull down at 25.712, which we did talk about before. This is the low of the region. We did violate that, so I'm going to remove it. Oh, I don't want to remove that. We want to remove this guy, sorry. Just move it over here because the current low is down there at 24.891. All right, so what is this little curved line and this curved line? Well, we have to throw on the momentum to show you that. So let's go ahead and switch profiles here. And throw on the heads up display and ask, what is this little bit of happiness? You go to the link in the description, momentummaster.info, scroll down to features and toggle at your leisure at Bitcoin's bottom. 30 hours to trace this price action and all the components before we knew it was the bottom, because the structure was so beautiful and just what you would like to see as a schematic for what Momentum Master offers you in terms of like the rocket ships on the stochastic array, the trend cloud and the thinning and the reclamation and going higher, the baselines and how they capture the price before it goes up. Just read about everything as it comes into prominence if you're interested, of course. And so as we come back to the reclamation, we broke through the daily cloud and we're coming back for that kiss to the daily cloud. If it does hold, then you stand to go higher. If it breaks down, you go down. But you watch this cloud shift and the cloud gives you that reaction point, that flash point, if you will. And if you look at the 3-day, we were talking about how the 3-day had this cross-up event and watching that subtle continuation over the last 3, 6, 9 days of upside before it started to retrace at the 236. Cloud on the 3-day is starting to taper here. It's been a while since this cloud at this angle, at this 2 o'clock angle, has started to taper. So we could be reaching our last legs of this run to the upside before we go back into the deeper pools, going back to the 28K region. I wouldn't be surprised if we tap into some of these pools and make one last hurrah rally before deeply resetting, because they would have to flush a lot of shorts that have accumulated over this long period of time from basically 186 days of shorts, that 600 billion we've been talking about. But it would make more sense for them to come into this area first before going into that, but that's a long time from now, perhaps, who knows. They already made their intention clear with this sharp drop with that SpaceX sell-off. And let's go into, let's see what the 3-day is doing. You got the rising sun event. You got 9 hours for this 3-day to close. Most likely it's going to bring it up to like about the 70 level. It might actually bring the lines closer together though and bide it some time at the 50, because you did have this 3-day bearish candle here to factor in, and we're not seeing much change in the open and the close, so this might just bring the KD lines closer together at 50, bringing you to this ambiguous point. Yeah, going to the daily, we haven't looked at the weekly in a while. Let's look at the weekly before the weekly candle close. We'll put out another update during the Asia Open, just because that's our normally scheduled time. Sorry, I didn't an update at the scheduled time. I was having like a heat stroke from a barbecue the night before, or the day before. So the weekly cloud is still strong. We wicked off it. This is the beauty of the cloud idea. We came down into the cloud of the weekly and bounced off the cloud, this volume weighted formula, and you basically come back, and we did that before on the 19K bounce out from there, from the 618. So this is our second hit to the cloud and bounce off the cloud on the weekly. The super trend level is holding. That starts to get negated about 10% away from here at 23,754. So if we come down to that pool where we had that huge $200 billion pool, that's if we close candles beneath that, then we are on now a bearish trend. If we maintain this, we're still slated to possibly go higher on the weekly. The weekly previously had a bunch of resistance at the adaptive moving average and the weighted moving average here, and the baseline cross down event had been suppressing the price thus far. Currently the baseline is being recaptured on the weekly time frame candle, so if we can close this candle out where we are currently, we can continue to go a little bit higher. On the stochastic, we have reset the stochastic and the Williams here. The Williams average could still come down a little bit more for my liking and keep in the green a little bit longer. It took us a little bit longer out of here to accumulate before we came out from the red. So let's see as we go back to the daily. Daily MACD leading MACD formula looking to potentially cross, has yet to cross. The money flow coming above the RSI suggesting a fatigue drop at some point. A lot of times when you get the money flow above the RSI, it does drop down, and conversely when the money flow comes beneath the RSI, it likes to come up. Williams is still at a point where it could continue higher. We're at the value of 35. Is there times we rotated out from that point? Not really on the daily time frame, so we could just be heading a little bit higher on that. If the MACD meets with resistance at the 0 level to enter the domain of the stochastic, that is sometimes where it gets met with resistance. Looking at the oscillators and everything, we already talked about the reclamation of the baselines. The baseline previously crossed up, and we saw that initial reaction of the cross-up event there, and we've been holding the baselines thus far, but they were starting to fail closeout candles beneath both of the baselines, and they're starting to come down for a cross down event potential. Going to the 22. The 22 had a cross down event back on Thursday, September 21st, and we had that drop to the downside after that event. We were starting to get overbought on the stochastic being held up fairly strong, and also the Williams. Now we had that alarming event starting to suppress the 22 from taking off over the weekend. Now if we start to make our descent to the 12-hour time frame, 12-hour time frame cloud is thick and holding with this idea of coming to the upside. However, you have this cross down event of the baselines right here that is basically suppressing the price down further until you can start reclaiming the baseline and closing out candles above. This could just be a suppression point for that ABC we're talking about coming down to here. All right, and if you go to the 6-hour time frame, 6-hour time frame cloud was this the 6-hour we were looking at? I think it was, because we didn't update until about here. So we were looking at Saturday last time, was about Saturday 9 a.m. here. Yeah, so we didn't have this angle. So this angle's still going up in a manner here, but the angle is slightly tapered, suggesting that even if you get a push up to this region, we're going to just redraw this later. Hold on. Actually, I want to show you what I was looking at first. So yeah, that's the 6-hour. And then when we go to the 4-hour, let's make sure. So the 6-hour money flow is significantly beneath the RSI, suggesting you get a 6-hour push up coming up to these short squeeze pools that we were talking about 2 days ago. You got the Williams in a nice position, the KD lines of the stochastic starting to come up here. And if you look at the 4-hour time frame, the 4-hour is starting to potentially double top here with the money flow beneath the RSI, suggesting a wind-up pitch to the upside. Previously had bullish divergence on the money flow that could be starting to play out. We also had, since last update, a cross-up event on the baselines of the 4-hour here, which is basically scooping the price quite nicely. One thing to note in a bearish tonality is this cloud is now curved to the downside, and you're starting to see the purple as it's starting to shift to the downside here. Does that continue and see the 6-hour do that as well? The insinuation is clear that the bullishness has subsided to some degree. If we look at the oscillators, yeah, the double top and the Williams in a position here to potentially suppress that stochastic to go higher. We talked about that 50x and 100x pool, most notably where this arrow is at 26,772. This is what we were talking about the last update. We were saying this cloud is thinning. If we can burst up above and reclaim it, you can look for that strength on the reclamation. And what do you know? That is happening right now. So we can move this over here and leave this unchanged and just say if we come back above the cloud, this is where you start to see the magic. At that time, this angle was like this. We didn't know where it was going to be in the future. Now we can just expand this out like this and move this over. And the angle is suggesting that it could scoop and bounce up to that 100x pool, making your B wave complete. Now, ultimately, it's more likely that it comes down into this region than not, but you can take it for a little scalp up to this pool. The 50xers are waiting for them over here. 26,775, partner in crime 50x at 27,053. Sorry, that's the 100x pool up here. So come in and get these 100x shorts. Could be on the idea of the candle close. And that candle on the weekly would be it would just create a bullish weekly, which would activate some algorithmic motion, start to bring this back up, but only to possibly go lower at that time. So let's go back into the hourly real quick. So we're reaching that midnight moment where some algorithms get triggered normally in the New York, but the London baton pass to New York as the London exchanges close. The banks are not open, but there's still this weird mystery motion that occurs around this time, which is why a lot of prominent streamers like to stream this time generally, because they like to claim that it's their technical analysis that's causing it. Where more likely than not, they're just catching the momentum and making their decision at that moment in time as it happens. So yeah, we're right above this cloud. So you want to see this cloud hold if you want to see the upside attack begin. That 4-hour cross-up event. So you have the 4-hour and the hourly. The hourly starting to get overbought here. You could get this double top event similar to what happened here. So watch to see what the hourly does. Not really getting so much volume. You did get a vector candle here in this sell-off in the last hour. Kind of ambiguous on the Williams, not really clear signal on that. You did enter the positive domain into the stochastic with the Williams. The MACD, and the MACD is still crossed up above itself. So we could see this go higher. If we go to the 15-minute, sorry, that's the 15-minute ready to take a little bit of a spin here. Does the 15-minute take it up or down? You're recaptured the cloud on the 15-minute as well. Can this 15-minute hold this cloud right now and take it to the upside? Let's remove this. So these little bits of happiness with the 66555, these are your stochastic array on Momentum Master, which lets you know when multiple time frames are oversold, and you can get that sent as a dynamic alert to your phone, which is pretty cool. So if you don't have somebody updating you, you can get the updates yourself. Let's go ahead and take a look at total real quick and see how total is holding. Total also holding the cloud on the 15, also above the cloud on the hourly. If we look at the alts, I think, oh, the alts are beneath the cloud, not as strong apparently. Let's go to USDT dominance. We're seeing this, the angle of the cloud did not play out exactly like we were seeing. It's actually holding. So if this USDT dominance does continue higher, this means that people get, as USDT dominance goes up, this suggests people getting kicked out into USDT. So the more USDT dominance goes up, the more people get into USDT, which means they get out of their trades. As it stands right now, it looks like people are getting knocked out of alts into USDT. So this drop down here, potentially speaking on total 3, is people getting out of alts and into USDT. If we look at the Bitcoin dominance is holding, potentially causing the Bitcoin dominance to go up on this cloud-like structure on the hourly. Overall, just like Bitcoin, the cloud is starting to taper and thin in a curvature manner that is suggestive of potentially coming and bearishly retesting for some lower dominance. I don't know what that would mean if Bitcoin dominance drops and the USDT dominance rises. People leaving and tethering up. Interesting. Don't know. Back to the total. Total on the 4-hour also has that cross-up event. Cloud is still bearish overall in tonality. If we look at DXY in conjunction with this, the DXY holding strong above that fair value gap that we reclaimed, that we had for you way back when. Not sure exactly when that was, but it's basically all reclaimed, so we're going to remove that. The next point of interest would be up in this 105.882 region. It's not unlikely that it could come up and clear that range and sweep the liquidity, the buy sides up above before reversing. It's been doing a good job of creating a regression trend upwards, so I don't see why it cannot just continue basically holding that equilibrium point to come up to that. They haven't been correlated as easily recently because of the boring nature of Bitcoin going sideways the majority of the time, so it hasn't been as drastically connected as it has in the past. Alright, now's the point in the show where you can ask me anything or to look at anything, and I'm happy to look at it. I think the last thing we looked at was Matic, for someone's request on Matic on the KuCoin. Let's see how that played out. What did I do for that? Did I have something? Did I delete it? Where was that? Was it Matic? I thought it was Matic. Was it this one? Huh, interesting. When was this? This is August 30th. It was sooner than that, so I think this is an old chart actually. Either way. So anything you want me to look at? Let's take a look. SRM, Serum. Alright. What's up, CNC? Dominique, hello. APV, hello. Prehab, hello. Rainier, hello, hello, hello. Thank you all for stopping in. Hope you all had a lovely weekend, not getting heat stroke out in a barbecue like myself. Should have stayed hydrated, not with Coca-Cola and non-alcoholic beer. That was not the play. We had some like outdoor karaoke. I was singing some Japanese songs and stuff. Let's see. Oh, what am I looking at? Indicators. What am I doing? Serum. Let's look at it on KuCoin. So Serum had a huge just bleed out down to just straight downside, driving, selling, just straight drying up. Like, hold on, let me just go to the daily. I'm gonna turn off everything just so I'm not like looking at dots everywhere. All right, so oh my gosh, wow. So essentially this came out in, I remember it was in November 2021, and then so you had this straight downside buy up to the previous opening day range and then sell off. I'm just trying to understand the methodology of this, and then so it just comes up and it always comes back to like a previous range it was trading at and then sells off as people get out. Most likely the people that buy in trying to scoop up the bottom, just like, let me out of this thing. Ugh. And then I don't really know the details of the project at all. Serum, I've heard of it, but yeah, like bottom of the barrel here. It does look kind of interesting how it spikes up on occasion, like spikes up. So if you catch these spikes are like what, 19%. So slightly gambly, but you know, if you look at it for how it's happening across these things, you have some bullish divergence here. I don't know how accurate this, what is the average volume? 1.8 million. So it's kind of a low micro cap coin. So now we can start throwing on this stuff and seeing what we see. All right, so you're starting to get a thinning of the cloud. Cloud does not really like portray the same thing when on these low micro caps, because the cloud amount gets manipulated easily by anyone with a little bit of capital investing. So far the close up events of the baseline are holding. You're at a point where it is potentially dropping lower. One thing we can do is a fib extension level from this impulse to this retrace back up here. If you can't get above the 0.045 region, it's basically a pump into a fade to go down further. You're holding this super trend level. So if you can't even make it up to this bearish super trend at 22% from where it's at right now, you're slated to go down into these pools further. I don't see an end in sight necessarily. If you go to 12 hour, getting some weird oscillations, but always beneath the cloud, get above it only to come back beneath it. You're just always permanently beneath the cloud by the looks of it. Anytime you spike up, it's just you come immediately back into underneath the cloud. This is one time where you had some solid trading above it and then suddenly came back beneath the cloud. So let's go ahead and take a look. I hope this is what you're wanting to look at. That is right? Not enough vodka in the Coke. Yeah, I was driving, so my son was with me too. I was just trying to watch him. It was a work function, kind of. It was a work barbecue, so it was kind of like, I'm not really trying to like drink with my coworkers like that. So the 6 hours coming up here, but you're getting a rejection off the cloud. I mean, you got the cross up event, but just like everything is just becomes a sell-off wick, sell-off wick, sell-off wick. You don't really have conviction behind the pumps. No sustainable pumps, just everything goes up to stop out the shorts. Let's see if they have the high block for this. It's been out long enough that I would suspect they do have something. So let's go look at Serum. SRM, do you have it? They do not, unfortunate. Some of these altcoins they have high block images of, so you can see where the pools of liquidity lie. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, let's put it that way, but you know, I could be wrong. It could pump all the way up to the 236 and give you like 22% gains or something, like a 38%, I don't know. So far you're holding the cloud, the baselines on the 4 and the 6 and everything, but I don't have much faith in a coin that's just been bleeding out straight to the downside. But yeah, I mean, you had a rocket ship back here, but you've had rocket ships that have failed to take off the entire way. Like, I mean, it's like my dad, he plays these biotech ETFs. What is the name of the ones he likes to play? He plays, I want to, Labu and LabD. Like, he plays these like 3x shares, and I'm like, Dad, why are you playing these things for hopes of a bounce that continually just go down? But he's like constantly playing these ones that go down all the time for bounces. I mean, I guess he's trying to get just these small little percentiles, like he's very frugal. But I'm like, why don't you get something with more like applicable TA, you know? But he plays these biotech shares for the S&P. But it reminded me of that, because I would look at his thing and I'd be like, it's just going down, Dad. What is this about? This is actually a little bit more stable if you look at some of the range. But those rocket ships do play out. It's pretty cool. They're more reliable than my dad's stuff that he likes to trade. So yeah, not the best thing to hope to go up, in my humble opinion, but you could get some sort of bounce. You are reclaiming the cloud on the 1 hour and the 4 and the 6 hour. So you could see some sort of play into that, but you're getting rejected off the adaptive every time. So I would be crossing my fingers for anything more than, you know, 6% or something. That's about it in a nutshell for the SRM. Also, we were noticing that, just to note that total 3 is beneath the cloud and slowly coming down here. So the alts are slowly having this bleed right now. So the alts are having a bleed. So not exactly the best place to think about longing alts, perhaps. I'm not sure though. If the Bitcoin dominance is looking to rise here in a manner, this is also going to knock out some of the alt trades. So having the Bitcoin dominance rise with the total 3 potentially coming down means that Bitcoin might steal the show going into the weekly candle close. I don't know. We'll give you an update again in about, what, let's say, I don't know when 9 a.m. is. Like, I have to take my son, he has like eye infection, I have to take him to the hospital, but basically around the weekly candle close time. So that would be, let's just turn to the weekly time frame and see the countdown. 8 hours, about 8 hours from now. So we'll update again in 8 hours time. So for the most part, the weekly candle close could come up into the 100x pools without batting an eyelash, and you could see a strong weekly candle close attempt. At that point, do you see a fade down into the liquidity pools below, or at least a retrace to see a further continuation? Because in the wise words of Peyton, once again, trash consolidation equals B wave into continuation to the downside, and we had this downside expansion, retrace, continuation idea. So it makes sense that it could possibly come down to the 618. overall. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, basically unchanged from yesterday's TA. Anything else before I go? Yo, Kluve, what's up? Any other last requests? Last requests. So we're looking for the 15-minute here to do its thing. Low liquidity weekends, of course, do their sideways action, getting a lot of bearish divergence starting to play out. 15-minute reset above the cloud. Go to the hourly. It just doesn't trade as clean as NASDAQ. It's just so slow sometimes. I'm bored by BTC, if I'm being honest. I love it though. It's one of my first passions, so I will always do TA for it. I just am more captivated by the clean nature of how these candles look in comparison. There's just a lot more battles occurring inside of each of these candles with a lot more volume. Very clean, every single one of them very clean, and it makes my indicator even more accurate. So the more volume the better for this indicator suite, to be honest with you. But yeah, when Bitcoin's very low volume or the low microcap coins, it just makes the whole components go haywire, and these candles are all over the place. It just doesn't really that's why you end up having to look at like higher time frames, because the lower time frames for Bitcoin look like such gobbledygook. But there's a whole story going on within like NASDAQ and S&P and all that on the smaller time frames. It's like what's happening here. It's in terms of coherence. All right, so let's see. Do you got anything you want to look at? Let's see. Be careful scoffing on SRM on XC. Slippage was horrible on my last visit. Chillin'. Nice. All right then. Well, once again, you got to hold this cloud though for any little bounce idea to occur. As soon as you break beneath it, you could be seeing more downside. Overall, not super bullish, but not to be unrealistic that it would come up into grab some of the 50x and the 100x up here. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you for coming on into the live and sharing your essence with me in this eternal moment of which we all share an inextricable and inexorable part. Thank you for doing your part, for coming on in each and every day. We'll do the same, bringing the fire, the accuracy, the precision, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.